Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another Podcasting Raw Nerdy. I'm that nerd ADC, and you got Brandon 2K, and we got a very special guest today. He needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one because he's that great. So buckle up because today's guest is bringing the best of both worlds from science and music. He's an aerospace engineer, a powerhouse singer, a Grammy-nominated artist, Roy Moye.
What's up, y'all? Hello. I'm so happy to be here. This is amazing. It's so cool to connect. Also, looking at Brandon, I'm like, look at us in here. We got, I like the melanin. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know who I was gonna, be on with. And
No.
it's awesome to see all of us together like this. This is really special. It's really cool, and to be nerds and to be proud of it and to love it. So I'm excited to dive in. Let's go.
Absolutely. Yes. So we've been putting it on social media about this nerd out segment, about 90 seconds to nerd out about whatever you want. And Roy answered the call. He's our very first person to be able to do this.
No pressure whatsoever.
And I'm very excited about it. And I'm very excited for you nerds to hear more about STEM as well. But he's ready and he has a lot of things to say. Kind of connection to STEM, but he's like, man, what about if I nerd about Brank? I'm like, go for it, man. And it sounds like you got a lot to say.
Yes.
So
you give me the clock, tell me the clock, the time, and I'm ready.
So I got it on my phone, 1:30. In post, magic is going to be right here. And but you got 1:30. I'm going to tell you when to go, and you'll hear the buzz.
And this could be about anything, and don't hold back. I'm not. I got. We bring some pretty crazy heat when we get talking. I gotta make sure this guy, brings the energy. So let's go.
Well, I'm ready. The sea feels hot from here. I can see the flames, so I'm ready to go. So ready, set, nerd out.
All right, here's my nerd out moment. I love airplanes. I've been obsessed with them ever since I was a young kid. And my thing is airplanes in movies and TV shows. Okay, clock this. Why in the world do in movies you have people get on a plane and it says they're going to fly to Tokyo, right? And they're at LAX. And the footage of the airplane is a Boeing 737 or a CRJ 700 or an Embraer 145, okay? These are all planes that would not in an airline system be flying across the ocean. Maybe if you had a private jet or something like that you transformed into, being a business jet that's like a Boeing plane, Boeing business jet, they have those stuff like that. Sure. That's not the case here. Or when you are in a crime show, a lot of crime shows, NCIS, a lot of CSI, all these crime shows, they'll have private jets, right, that they got to fly. And this happens in movies too. But they'll be in a Gulf Stream, right? They board the Gulf Stream. They get it. The plane takes off. You see the Gulf Stream take off. And I'm like, ooh, good job. Then you see it landing in Vegas and it's a Bombardier, aircraft. That's not like what? Or it's a Cessna Citation 10. Why would you change that? And Gulfstream airplane private jets have perfectly circular windows. So that's how you know it's a Gulfstream. So I'm just like, why make it make sense? Or you go inside the cabin and it's a flight from Chicago to Kansas City. And inside the cabin, you see two aisles. When has a twin aisle airplane ever flown from Chicago to Kansas City in a regular airline transfer? So anyway, that's my nerd out moment. Get the airplanes right in the movies and television shows.
Wow, man. You'd expect one thing less from a son of the air capital right there. Wow. Oh, wow. I love it.
It's the truth. It's 100% the truth, and it's someone's job. The thing is like, a lot of times I was talking to a friend, they make movies. And so she was like, well, they're probably just using the stock footage and they probably would want to, but the budget doesn't allow them. I'm like, the amount of airplanes that are on YouTube, you could snag a video from YouTube. I'm sure there's a right that goes into that or whatever. But anyway, it's just one of those things that had, and I mean, since I was a little kid, like one of, I don't want to say favorite movies of all time, but like just a funny movie is White Chicks. And like,
I love it.
Like looking at, the airplane in there, I think they tried to be consistent with that. Or a movie that I really loved, Rush Hour 2, I think it was. They used the 747 when they were flying overseas. And so I really appreciate movies like that either keep the plane consistent or they use the right plane to travel. Like, I really appreciate that. So, yeah.
Hollywood, he's coming for you. He's got...
I'll just be a consultant,
It's a job. No, like legitimately, if you look this up, there is a consistency analyst or there's some job title.
The movie, The Martian, yeah, they had a space consultant. Yeah, so there's often people who do that on movies. But like my friend said, sometimes the budget just hangs them up. But as an airplane nerd or av geek, as we're called, and I don't know everything, every single thing about airplanes, but I know enough. I know a lot of the basics because while, I don't really play video games, while kids were growing up playing video games, I was looking at pictures of airplanes on a site called myaviation.net, airliners.net, and then a website called Flight Level 350, which showed you airplane videos, like videos of planes taking off and landing, because YouTube did not exist yet. And so I was literally on this compact computer, like just like going through pictures and I don't know, I just had this obsession of just like, and even like working in the aerospace industry as an aerospace engineer with peers who are also aerospace engineers or mechanical engineers or of the like, and you're working on an airplane, but because and this is something I didn't really know until I got into industry, you're working on a detailed part of an airplane or a specific section of an airplane, right? Just like the chairs we're all sitting in, like there's sections of the chair versus like the whole chair. And so they go outside. We have this military aircraft called the KC-46 Pegasus, which is the new tanker for the Air Force that refuels airplanes in the air. The older version of that is the KC, which is modified off of a Boeing 707 back in the day. And so the KC-135 has 4 engines. The KC-46 Pegasus has 2 engines. That's the easiest way, because they're both gray airplanes. That's the easiest way you can tell the difference. And so we're working on the KC-46 Pegasus. And one time we were leaving from work, we go out in the parking lot and we work. Where I used to work was right across from McConnell Air Force Base. So you see these planes taking off. Look, the Pegasus. Oh my gosh, like we're designing that plane. And I'm like, look, I'm watching the same plane take off that they're watching. There's posters of the plane we're working on in the room that we're working in. And I'm like, that is a KC-135 with 4 engines. Like what? Like how? You are in the same room as me. You are actually working on the plane and you can't tell the difference. Oh my gosh. That was something that blew my mind in industry, is like not everybody's really into the memorization of knowing what planes are what and all of that sort of thing. So it kind of cracks me up. And I'm specifically specialized in commercial. So I know some, a lot of the popular fighter jets and some of the popular general aviation airplanes and private jets. I know of them, but commercial that's my love. Like I love commercial airplanes, which a lot of people in aerospace, they like the rockets and the fighter jets. Usually it's that way, but I'm like so opposite. Yeah.
So I gotta ask, in Catch Me, we're gonna keep throwing these softballs. That's the thing, Adrian's got some fastballs. Here's another softball. The movie Catch Me If You Can. I know you've seen it.
I've not seen it. Here's I forgot to say that to you in our pre. Hold on. All right, I'm gonna blow your mind right now. And I just told my friend about this earlier today. I said, because we were talking about some other topic, and I told her, I said, no, you have to get like me, where you just own it, where you get used to it. So I grew up in a cult church, so I did not have a TV until I was in middle school, and that didn't even include movies and shows. And so I used to like, man, it sucks that you like get in these conversations and people are like, oh, remember this movie, remember that, or whatever. And I'm like, no, and cult church sounds so crazy and aggressive, but it kind of was. But I'm here.
Kids, we know
about it. What happened in Catch Me If You Can?
So it kind of is it's a fictional take on a true story. Frank Abagnale was a serial check fraud guy. That was his thing. But his main claim to fame was he worked on Pan Am, but he worked at Pan Am, as the commercial. Yeah. So that was his gig. His main gig was committing check fraud with those checks. But he flew all over the world on these planes as a co-pilot without ever taking a single class. But he had committed enough fraud to make that his quote unquote job.
Wow.
And flew all over the country, overseas, wherever he wanted to, because he was a Pan Am employee. So definitely a catch. Definitely one you should definitely catch.
Yes,
it would definitely tweak that nerd for you 100%.
Oh my gosh, wow!
And I wanted to know how accurate it was, because I feel like you would be the guy that we would send you a DVD and say, hey, please, analyze this. Tell us what messed up.
Well, and to that point, though, I'm not a pilot. That is a goal one day. I still, that's a bucket list thing that I still want to do. So I may not be able to, comment on that part, but it would be interesting to see if they got the planes right,
100%. Yeah. Especially because it's period pieces. I know back in the day, especially with the older videos, they had a lot of footage of old commercial liners all the time.
And that's kind of, it's very interesting to me, actually, because I'm like, ooh, Pan Am, like, what kind of planes would be in there? That's interesting. Very cool.
Yeah, Constellation was one of them that they were on.
Constellation.
Okay. So and they named them. So like you would.
So now you got me. I want to watch this now. That's cool.
Cool. And then the Howard Hughes movie that Leo did too. What was that called? Adrian, the Howard Hughes.
can't think of the name of the movie, but that's another one that you would definitely be interested in because it chronicles the whole like building taking the land speed record and using that on planes.
Right. I just can't think of the name of the movie.
I can't
Or
think
like,
of it either.
or
It's a big
Flight
one.
with Denzel Washington.
Flight with Denzel Washington's another
And
one.
I was older when that one came out, but I was like, that's a little too terrifying. Like, I don't,
100%.
I don't be doing scary movies. I can't. And that's not a scary movie, but it's intense. It's so intense. I'm like, woo.
I thought that could be a
Especially-
whole segment of us just sending him a video clip. Is this accurate?
Yeah, that would be so fun.
Like a new segment is like every single episode. Is this accurate with Roy?
Right? Just a quick 30 seconds. Is this right? And why not?
Yeah. Well, that would
Be
be
cool.
so fun. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I every time I'm watching a movie and I see an introduction of an airplane, I'm like, okay, let's see if they got it right. I will say some of the movies I've seen recently, and I can't think of them, but I just remember seeing it in the theater and going, like, they got it right. And it's little stuff. Like, I'm not even in the nitty gritty details. It's just like, oh, they're flying from New York to London and they show a 747 or a Dreamliner or an A350 or an A330 or an A340. You know, I'm like,
I'm right there with you on a lot of stuff. Like for us, it's getting the DCU and MCU stuff right from the comic books to the movies. So we're right there with you.
Yeah, like with you with airplanes, I watch some stuff and I'm just like, just no.
and I think everybody has that thing because everybody's passionate about something, you know,
And it's all
Yeah.
different.
yeah.
All different.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So first things first, Adrian, what's on the agenda?
So we're gonna go chronologically. So I want to talk about like your beginnings a little bit. So I want to ask you, what inspired your love for airplanes, and how did that involve into pursuing aerospace engineering?
Yeah, it's a great question. And my answer is an answer that I don't know to be factually true, but I claim it to be true. So I was born in Kaiserslautern, Germany. My dad being in the army at the time. He's in the reserves right now. And yeah, when I was born in Kaiserslautern, 3 weeks after being born, I was on a plane back to the States. Not 3 months, not 3 years, 3 weeks. Think about that. Like a little baby. And so for me, I've never known a day where I didn't love airplanes, genuine. And so I in my mind, I always say that's when it happened. It happened when I was flying at 30,000 feet across the Atlantic Ocean, coming back to the States. And then as a kid, like I said, I was so obsessed, like watching my parents. So I grew up the first 7 years of my life in Tacoma, Washington. And so I'm going to the airport and picking up our grandmother, you know, something like that. And I'd be just so fascinated. And I would come home, sit at the dining room table and draw airplanes. Like, just like, oh my God, can we go to the airport, please? I just want to go. I just want to see the planes. And then C-5 Galaxies from the Air Force Base that was near us would fly over the apartment complex that we lived in. And so I remember seeing those planes and just really became obsessed. And then finally got to a point where I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to design airplanes. I want to do that. And what does that, like, how do I do that? What is that called? And my dad, I think because he was around, so he sampled fuel for aircraft for military vehicles and in a science lab, which is something that I kind of like, what? Like, I didn't realize that that was his whole job until like literally like 5-6 years ago. Like, oh, wow. Like, there seems to be a connection here with STEM, you know? And so he kind of had the terminology aeronautical engineer. And once he kind of like gave me those words, I just hit Ask Jeeves, Yahoo, Google, you know, all the places, and was Wikipedia and just like, and so I just became really obsessed with it and was like, I really want to do this. But then everybody's like, that's a lot of math. And I was like, well, I do not like math. So there was kind of this battle.
Yeah, me too.
Kind of like, do I want to be a pilot instead of aerospace engineer? Because I love the feeling of flying. Like, we did not fly often as a family of 5. So it's very expensive to fly. So, you know, I think we flew once when I was a kid. And I mean, that just, oh my gosh, you know? And so that was kind of, I was like, wanting to pilot or aerospace. And so ended up choosing aerospace. And that's what brought me to Wichita, Kansas. So after the 7 years in Tacoma, Washington, we moved to Raytown, Missouri, which is a suburb of Kansas City, Missouri. And that's where I did most of my growing up from second grade through high school. And then even though everybody kept saying the math, and even though inside I was like, dude, you're not great at math. Like, are you sure you want to do this? I was like, I want to do this. I don't know. Even in high school, like I sang and stuff, but like I had auditioned for American Idol when I was 15. I did not make it through any round. And so I was like, people are lying to me. This is actually I can't sing. Like, and that's when my focus was like, I'm going to be an engineer. And I still love singing, but I just was like, that's not something I'm going to pursue, which is funny now. And like, people used to beg me to sing in high school. And I was like, only in choir. That's it. I'm going to be an engineer. Stop asking me. And I mean, I shut people down. So it's so funny to me now. And then, so then I ended up applying to a whole bunch of like 5 schools, Embry-Riddle in Daytona Beach, which is known as an aerospace mecca for aerospace engineering. They're always in the top 5 of aerospace bachelor's degree programs. Got in 60 grand a year, got a scholarship for 1,000 each year. Still didn't cover all of
Still a
that.
good scholarship.
It's a great scholarship. Man, it's not making no dent. It's not making enough dent to that 60,000 every year. So ended up applying to Wichita State really at the last minute to kind of round it out. And it's a funny story of like, I found Wichita State on Wikipedia and I scrolled because I had applied to Tennessee, University of Tennessee, Knoxville, University of Missouri, Alla. That's the school I really thought I was going to go to for science and technology, Embry-Riddle and Ohio State. Because my parents are from Ohio. So a lot of family from Ohio and stuff. And we, all that. So go Buckeyes. They just won the championship in football. Woo, 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 woo.
With a K-State quarterback.
Right.
Anyway.
Right. Yeah, I'm so proud of that. I was like, this is amazing.
Would have been better if we didn't go 9-4, but
Right.
So I was scrolling on, so I was like, just round it out. You should like do 5 instead of just 4, And so I'm scrolling on Wikipedia, aerospace engineering degree programs. I literally am scrolling down the list and I'm like, Colorado School of Mines, no, this, that, all this. And then I get to the bottom and I see Wichita State University. And the only reason why I clicked on it is because I was like, I think that's that new city when you watch the weather in Kansas City. Like when you watch the weather and you see there's a W down here on the weather, literally, I want to say literally, that's
awesome.
It is because of the weather on KMC 9 that I recognized the word Wichita. And so I clicked on it. And at the time, Wichita State was not what it is now, but it was like air capital of the world. And I was like, what? In Wichita, Kansas, air capital of the world. So first thing I do is Google the airport, or put on Yahoo or whatever. And I'm like, the airport is really small. This does not make sense to me, but I'm starting to study it more and went to the website and saw that, there's a lot of aerospace manufacturing companies and stuff like that. I was like, I had no idea. And so I said, it's only 3 hours away. And so I asked my dad, like, can we, take a tour? None of the other colleges I had toured because we just didn't have money to go fly out. And like that was not us. We were not that family. And so I said, could we just go on a Friday and I'd take off from school? Came down here. It was like a spiritual experience because like torrential downpour in the Flint Hills. So where like people were pulled over, but my dad is very stubborn and he's a good driver, but also kind of like a hold on, like, are you sure you don't want to pull over? I mean, it's torrential downpour. I'm like, are you sure you don't want to pull over? And I think, I got this. And he did, but it was terrifying for me. I mean, you could hydroplane. I mean, standing water on the highway. So we pass under a bridge in El Dorado and then it just turns to sunshine. I will never forget that. I was like, what just happened?
no,
what
I feel that in my soul.
Right. That to be true. But
yes,
my first time like experiencing that. And so we go on campus, we do the tour, the tour guide. So before we go on the tour, we're at the Marcus Welcome Center, which is by their baseball stadium, X Stadium. We're looking over the field. We're in awe, like this big stadium, and I just felt this calming presence of like, this is where you're supposed to be. And I remember being very angry about that feeling. Like, angry because at the time I was still waiting for Ohio State to say yes or no. And so I'm like, no, this is not. And it was nothing against Wichita. I wasn't even one of those people that was like, Wichita's so small. Wichita felt like a big city to me because I grew up in Raytown, Kansas City. Like I wasn't in the city. We would go maybe every once in a while, but I was growing up in Raytown. That was my day-to-day life. So going to Wichita, it actually felt like a bigger city to me in a weird way. But I just was like, this is not him. I'm supposed to be at Ohio State. And now, later in my life, I know that was the Holy Spirit being like, this is where you're supposed to be.
This is where you need to be.
But I was just like, and so, okay, that's just a moment inside, right? Then the tour guide comes and he's like, my name is Scott and I'm from Colorado and I'm a senior here majoring in aerospace engineering. And I was like, and I was the only kid on the tour interested in that major. Everybody, like, I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. So then at the end, we're supposed to go see the dorms. And he's like, I know you guys are supposed to go do that, but if you want, I can take you to see the wind tunnels and I'll go grab a golf cart and we can go. And so like, I'm just like, at that moment, I'm so happy, but I'm also so mad because I'm just like, this is where you're supposed to be going, And so that's how I got to Wichita and to Wichita State to major in aerospace.
So you got me at Raytown. So I grew up in Grandview, Missouri.
No way!
Yeah,
Oh my
I grew up.
gosh!
Uh,
Casey.
so
The world.
I grew up.
I'm just from Manhattan, I'm
Okay,
just
Manhattan. Okay, Manhattan.
So I know exactly what you're talking about.
What? I'm
And,
like, so like Grandview was always like, we were always competing and stuff.
and I feel like we're clicking, so let's not ruin that, okay? No, I'm done. But let's talk about Raytown for a second. I have to ask your opinion. How do you feel about Funhouse Pizza?
We loved Funhouse Pizza, and we were so sad that it closed down.
Yeah,
Because I think there's like a fish place there or something now, but yeah,
yeah.
loved that place. We did, yeah. We would always have like either like a school something there or just hanging out with friends, and yeah, it was always like a cheeky place, but it was our place,
Like that's exactly my opinion. Like people ask me about it, and I'm like, it's more sentimental than anything.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to say the pizza's 5-star,
Right.
but like whenever time people go to
Funhouse, wow, you bring them.
because they still have one. I think it's in I think they're the one that's still open is in Raymore. I want to say maybe.
Yeah, I think I heard about. Yeah.
But yeah, I knew that would probably get to your memories. So,
That's crazy, Grandview. That's wild.
yeah.
That's wild.
As soon as you said Raytown, I was like, oh snap, here we go.
Yeah. So our hangout was the Waffle House at Grandview, which did no longer exist either.
Okay.
They shut that down. I want to say like
I
maybe
didn't know
5
we
years
had Waffle House in Grandview. What?
It's long
Yeah.
gone.
Wow.
Yeah. But I know I'm dating myself. It's fine.
Big time.
But yeah. So there's a connection there. And I thought, where as soon as you said, you should see my eyes, and Brandon probably saw it. As soon as you said Raytown, I was like, wait a minute.
I did that, but I was like, some people know where Raytown is, and it does shock me though how many people in Wichita. I mean, not that far away, but like I'll say Raytown and I'll say suburb. Oh, I know where Raytown is. I'm like,
It's on the interstate on the way in. We see it.
or they'll be like Raytown.
Yeah.
We do that for Grandview.
Yeah. That's what I'm about to say. Like Grandview, I mean, like the Grand.
All
Kansas
you
City.
ever hear of is the Grandview Triangle. There's even a song by Cess Crew who literally goes, yeah, I got this spot. I'm going to drop off this hot car. Oh, yeah, where's it at? Oh, Grandview Triangle. Oh, the armpit of KC. Got it.
Or you hear about the
Raytown do have that a reputation. Yeah. Because it would be like, oh, Grandview, when we were living in Raytown. But they're like, people be like, Raytown, oh.
Yeah, exactly. No beef here, but I figured you'd like to hear that.
Yeah.
So, can you share some memorable moments from designing airplane parts for the Boeing 777?
Yeah, the 777. So I came in, and it's very interesting. And I want to be very transparent for your audience and for you all too. And I am just anytime I get my engineering career was wrought with insecurity and just very like swimming upstream in mud. So it's kind of interesting because it's like, what? Like, what do you mean? So you wanted to design planes and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, that's what I wanted to do. But as I said earlier, I kind of didn't fully realize like, oh, you're designing this stringer clip. You're designing this frame. You're designing this, shear tie, this stanchion, this, these structural design. And I think for me, I was like, I want the plane, I want the whole plane, And so in doing the design work, there were some fulfilling things in the sense of like knowing that I'm designing parts that are going on this plane that is now in flight test. And every time I see, unfortunately, they're a little delayed and behind in the flight test. But when I see that plane in the news and stuff like that and its development, it's so cool because it's like, wow, this is something that I will be connected to for the rest of my life, as well as the KC-46 tanker. And I worked on that plane when I was an intern, my second internship at Spirit Aerosystems here in Wichita. And so every time I see a KC-46 tanker take off or fly overhead or something, I mean, it's just a special thing. It's like, wow. And I got to go inside of one September of 2022 for the first time and was just like, this is so cool. And at the air show that just happened last year, I went inside one again. And so just really special to be connected to that. I will say on the 777X, there were some moments where we were just kind of pressed for trying to get these designs out and that sort of thing. And so being able to kind of manage multiple detailed parts, which is kind of what I was focused on in my earlier career, in a timely manner and making sure I was hitting those design deadlines, it was something that I was really proud of. And then also just getting better at something that I now, when I do keynotes, I didn't realize this then, but I now talk about it in this way because students can relate to it and just people in general. We had Shark Tank. Like, I didn't know that we had Shark Tank. I didn't know that. And it was terrifying. It was terrifying in some ways because you would go into a design review of hey, does your design get approved or does it get rejected? And so it's very much like I'm like, what is this? Oh my gosh. And feel free to edit this, but literally, I think unfortunately what we were talking about before, somebody just texted me. It's not looking good.
I thought that was Hollywood coming for you, but
No, no,
No,
man.
much more dire news, but that and
Yeah.
continue with that, but also on the other side of it, how nerve wracking is it to design something that's 35,000 feet in the air?
Yeah. So it's when you're when you're in the day to day of designing, you don't really feel that huge like big weight of like, oh my gosh. But once you start to see it come together, once you can go out into the shop and see your parts being installed, it is like, I got to make sure I get this right. And I think for me, I was really grateful, especially as a young engineer, for the checks and balances process. So back to the Shark Tank. So you'd be in a meeting with a stress engineer. So I was a structural design engineer. You'd be in a meeting with a stress engineer, which they're doing a stress analysis. So the stress and strain on parts, like how thick do parts need to be? How strong does the material have to be? That sort of thing. Manufacturing engineers, so how the plane is put together. Mechanics, can they install this? Yes, it may look like a great design and may look really, really cool in CATIA V5, which was the software we were using to design, but is it practical? Right. And then you have the business development team that's like, okay, is this costing us more money than it should be costing us? That sort of thing. And so, going in there and seeing if you're going to get approved or denied. And if you got denied, you would just have to go back and figure out, okay, what needs to then change to go back in there and get approved. But yeah, you did start to feel the weight. And then unfortunately, once, as I started to getting older in my career, I say older, like 4 or 5 years in, you're kind of used to it. But then once, some of those, unfortunately, max crashes happen from Boeing, which were not of anything of Spirit Aerosystems doing, but it does. There's a huge gravity of like the responsibility. And so I really appreciated the checks and balances of every time you had a design that was going to be released. You had to go through a round of checks, maybe 3 weeks out of your release date. And so getting, we call them like red marks of like, this, you got to change this, you got to fix this, that sort of thing. And then before everybody signs your design, your drawing. So you have your 3D part that you modeled, but then your drawing, you go through another system of checks as well. So I sometimes it would annoy us as designers because sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, okay, this flag note is not in this location on this drawing sheet. Okay. I mean, that I don't know if that is that dire, but at the same time, it's like every single thing. I really, really appreciated that because every single thing matters. And
yeah, you're talking about people's lives at the end of the day,
yeah,
right?
and it has to
Yeah.
be done right. It has to be done right. And so, we were always reminded of that. And when you're signing your name on that document as the engineer who designed it, right? Like that's you own that. And so, yeah, I was always grateful for that process of checks and balances. And yeah, often, and especially like I said, when tragedies would happen, it's like, oh my gosh, you really are impacting thousands, millions of people's lives each and every year with what you're doing, what you're working on. So yeah.
No, I live next door to a tooler, a 30-year tooler. Yeah. I hear all the stories.
Yes, yes. Let me
Absolutely.
see if I can my phone is blowing up right now.
You're good.
Okay. I think I might be okay now. Sorry.
You're good.
No, and one of them I'll probably keep in because we'll probably touch at it toward the end about, that's unfortunately that story.
It's so sad. No, there's people, yeah, it's just like, ugh. And crazy because I was just in DC. Like I wasn't on that flight going there, but I was on the flight coming home because it's a nonstop flight from Wichita to DC. Yeah. So not good.
You've worked in talent acquisition
Yeah.
to recruit multicultural STEM professionals. What are some of the most inspiring stories you've encountered in that process?
Yeah. So working as a structural design engineer, that was the dream, right? I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. I wanted to design planes for a living, and I got to do that. But as I said in the beginning, like it started really becoming like swimming upstream in mud, and I got better at it, which was good. And there was like one story in there that I really was like, well, what was your favorite thing about that? After designing new parts on the 777X aircraft, which is now in flight test, which by the way, when it flies passengers, it will be the longest airliner in the world. Like it will break that record.
That's exciting.
A little bit longer than the 747-8, just by a little bit. The I then moved over to sustaining, which is more of kind of servicing the 777 aircraft that are already flying, the older aircraft that are already flying. And there was an instance where there was a airplane on the ground, AOG. And so, for airlines, they don't want the plane to be sitting on the ground because they're losing revenue, they're losing money, that sort of thing. And so it wasn't a crazy change, but it was something that like my manager was like, you're the one that can do this. Like, can you drop everything and work on this and get these parts redesigned, get the sealant that needs to be the flag note that says, put this sealant, all this stuff on there. Like, can you get this done? And it was like within a week and 3 days, I want to say. And so not only doing the design work, which that part was actually, probably the easiest part, but doing that, but then communicating to all of the people across the supply chain of who has to approve stuff, who has to, all those checks and balances I was talking about. But because of the thing that I had that many of my engineering peers didn't have, which was the gift of communication and likability and just knowing how to connect with people, I was just making phone calls and sending emails and literally got everybody on board to review what I had done, to submit it, to get it, and to get something released that quickly. And that plane was not stuck on the ground. I the next week found out that was something that I was like, wow, something that I did sitting here at this desk, really had an impact on this aircraft. It was in Dallas or something like that. And so that was a kind of a big highlight of this engineer, you're like those movies where it's like, we need you to do this thing and make,
guy in the chair.
Yeah. That was a cool moment for me of wow. And I got it done. But yeah, so after doing that, I got into 2008 and I was kind of really starting to get burnt out. And at the time they had this program called the Loan Executive Program, and it was with the United Way in Wichita. So for 3 months, companies would sponsor employees who applied and got selected to go and work for the United Way for 3 months. And so I applied for it, I got accepted, and I was able to do that. And that was such a blessing because it was it gave me that time away to kind of think okay, what am I doing? I'm getting to enjoy this thing with United Way and working in the community and all this stuff, helping raise money for their annual campaign. But what am I going to do? Am I going to, and so I ended up going back and doing, you had to go back. It wasn't even really a decision. It was no, you're going back. And then the pandemic hit and everyone's rethinking their life at that point. Everyone's like, what's going on? So many life changes for everybody, including myself. And I was at the point where I was like, I'm tired. I need to do something different. Also, I had been pursuing music this entire time. So that's another part of the story that's being kind of left out is since I started working at Spirit 2015, I was like, I want to do music full time. Actually, that's what I want to do. So it was kind of this man, I should pull. And so I was pursuing it, putting out projects all along and all that stuff. And so I was like, then I had founded STEMusic in 2019. We can talk about that story, whenever, but from there I was like, okay, maybe I want to do this full time. I don't know. And so I wanted to leave Spirit, and mentors of mine were like, yo, no, how can we? So they made me talk with a former executive, and I was terrified because he used to be the head of all engineering at Spirit. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, because I had won this award for Black Engineer of the Year awards and for a Science Spectrum Trailblazer, and it was all about teaching the next generation about STEM. So I'm like, oh wow, I have a company doing this. I felt it wasn't about my engineering work. It was about me introducing STEM to the next generation. So a whole bunch of people at the company wanted to talk to me. I was in a video. It was just a whole thing. The current engineering head at the time also wanted to talk to me to congratulate me. And he's kind of grilling me on my career. Well, what do you want to do next? And I'm like, management, but I really don't want to, And he's like, well, you should probably get more experience from just metallic aircraft. You should probably do something in composite. And you should probably, which all makes sense. But I'm sitting there just get out of this meeting. No. And so bless his heart. And so the former head of engineering, they made me meet with as well. And so they were be honest with him. He can't fire you. He's not in control of your career. And so I was, and shout out to him because he was so, his name is John Pilla, and he was so kind and just okay, so you want to pivot from this? Because he was oh, maybe you could be an engineering leader, or you could do this, or maybe you could do, and I was just
not at all, not at all.
And so when he kind of landed on, I said, well, I really enjoyed having an intern in the summer of 2018. I'm really passionate because I had volunteered with the intern program, not volunteered, but got permission from my manager to support different things in the summer with the interns since I started working there. So I was always involved with people stuff. And I said, that's kind of what I enjoy. And I don't know where. I said, I'm passionate about diversity. I'm passionate about bringing more Black and brown people into STEM. I don't know what job that is, I was but, and so he kind of, when I said that, he was okay, so maybe we need to talk to this person. And we said that person's name. I was like, yeah, So then he was like, well, I can't promise you anything will change within a year, but give me a year. Let's see what we can do. January 6th, I'll never forget it because that was the day of the insurrection. January 6th, 2021. Because of that award, I had to go shoot a video at Spirit for something. And that day I'm in my Lord time. I'm like praying and I'm like applying for a job at Georgia Tech to be a STEM outreach coordinator. Massive pay cut. But I was like, I'll be in Atlanta. I'll be at Georgia Tech if I get accepted. I'll be, there. It's a music scene, an entertainment scene, Tyler Perry studio. I'm thinking of all these things. And in my prayer time, God was like, do you trust me enough not to apply? And I was like, first of all, how disrespectful. Like, if I done worked on this application, I done got my friend to, check everything. I done be like, how disrespectful. And the Holy Spirit was like, nah, I'm speaking the truth. And it was hard. And in that moment, this is 7 a.m. that day. And I remember being like, audibly, fine, I won't apply. And I was mad because I had my friend, I never had a cover letter. I was a 2-time intern at Spirit Aerosystems and then worked at Spirit. So I never applied for a job. So I had to make a cover letter, update the resume, all this stuff, fill out, then when you apply to a job, it's like, please submit your resume. Okay, submit your resume. Okay, please tell us all the jobs and everything you have. Like, why did I just submit your resume? That's another thing. Anyway, but so I had done all that stuff and all I had to do was hit submit. And I was going to do that after my prayer time. So I'm in there and I'm like, fine, I won't apply. Begrudgingly.
All this.
So then I go to Spirit to film the thing. My mentor is there, and she's like, okay, good job filming everything. Can we go in this room? I want to talk to you about something. I was like, oh, sure. She was like, so-and-so is leaving the company. And I'm like, what? She's like, I'm like kind of, sad. And she was like, shut up. That's not why I'm telling you that. We want you to apply for her position in HR. And when I tell you, I was just like, what? Like, it was such a God moment for me because I was like, dang, God, you really weren't playing around. And long story short, I ended up, going through all the interviews and all this stuff and got the job as a talent acquisition specialist. And so pivoted from structural design engineering to HR. And I really thank my first manager, like the one who took the chance on me, because it's like they had a highly qualified candidate in the sense of HR experience, but I knew the company. And I was very involved with interns. I was very involved, I didn't have this traditional background, but she decided to take that risk. Man, those 3 years were they were challenging because a lot of stuff was happening in aerospace and still is happening in aerospace as it relates to Spirit Aerosystems. But it was so fulfilling for me. It was like I was in a cocoon this entire time and then my butterfly wings just came out and I was just blossoming into this, I always say this. I always felt like I was on the right bus with Spirit. I loved the company, but I was in the wrong seat. And so I was finally in the right seat on the right bus and got to work on so many diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, which right now are so under attack everywhere at every company. And we made so much progress. Like in the summer of 2020, the pandemic, when George Floyd was murdered, all the companies were like, what's your Black strategy? And so Spirit Aerosystems, one of those other companies trying to pull all the Black employees together. Not all, but some from different areas. It's like, what should we? And I remember that summer there was no Black intern in the intern picture. And I remember leadership saying, well, it was because some of them were virtual. And I was like, I don't care if they were virtual or not. Like, not one in this picture. Like, what? And I remember like being very vocal about that, but I was still in engineering at the time. And so when I got in the seat, I got to help drive the strategy of recruiting engineers, like full-time engineers. That's kind of where I started in talent acquisition. But that first summer of 2021, I came alongside the person who ran the college internship program and really got to help guide and introduce some new things and bring some energy and that sort of thing. And then the next year, it was handed over to me. And so that became kind of my main responsibility. But I also was responsible for going to diversity conferences and bringing in those organizations, connecting Spirit Aerosystems to. And I don't know if that's what I was told to do, but it's what I was going to do in the role, because I saw the deficit. And that's what STEMusic is all about. It's like, I want to see more people of color. Being a structural design engineer in a room of 40 to 60 engineers at any given time and being the only one in the room or being one of 3, it was just, that was my actual reality. I don't care what Pew Research Center says, and Pew Research Center agrees with me, by the way, but the data backs me up. But it's like, that was my lived experience. It wasn't like, oh, I'm just saying this because I'm like, no, that was my lived experience. And so I became just so passionate. I was passionate about it in college because I was in National Society of Black Engineers. Living that was just like, wow, how can I change this? Which is how STEMusic came about. But yeah, in HR, I really reconnected our company with HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. We started to get interns from those universities. We had summer of 2023, we ended up having 43% interns of color and 39% women interns. And that was like great. Those numbers were really crazy. And it was it dropped a little bit in 2024, but it was still pretty close to those numbers.
It's amazing.
And it was a wild, just a wild ride of excitement and getting to really be able to add to the company, the diversity. And the other thing too is like a lot of the people that I helped recruit are still working at the company. And you asked, one of like the stories was a student from Southern who, when I first talked to her, I was like, yeah, like, let's talk about it. Like, what's going on? Like, she was looking for a position right out of college, and she was a December grad. Sometimes that's a little different from a May grad. Interview questions. You can Google some interview questions and we can go through them together, but it's your job to come up with your storyline, what you have to do. We can talk about it. And then I said, okay, here's the jobs that let's figure out. And that's what I loved about being in HR, is because I knew the company, and then I knew who was posting requisitions, what were they for, who the managers were, all kinds of stuff. And so I was like, okay, tell me when you apply. I'll reach out to the manager. Can't guarantee an interview, but we'll see. And long story short, she ended up interviewing. She ended up getting hired. I had no idea that she got hired. One random day, 3 months later, 6 months later, she just walks into the HR service center, and I don't know who she is, like, because we were on the phone, right? Like, I never saw her. And so she was like, "Are you Roy?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, I'm from Southern. I'm, Ayana." I was like, "What?" And it was just like one of those moments of just like, wow, not only is this isn't an intern, this is a full-time hire. She's still at the company. I was actually interviewing her the other day, and she just got her master's in engineering leadership at University of Oklahoma, and with a 4.0, did it in a year. I mean, it's just those stories of like allowing, students who may have fallen through the crack, or who could have fallen through the cracks without the guidance or the connection point, and seeing nepotism and that sort of thing happen throughout industry, and knowing that people who look like you and I don't often get those chances and those opportunities. And so I love being in that role to bridge the gap and not to do anything illegally. You know what I mean? Because I think that's what a lot of people, they think D&I, oh, you're just shooing people in. You're just letting people who are not qualified. No. She had the degree. She was qualified. It was literally about the soft things. It was about like, how do I interview? How do I communicate my skill set? How do I showcase that I have the talent to bring value to this organization? And so a lot of my job, which was not in my job description, right, but because of my passion and what I was trying to do, would be coaching, and just making sure that interns, students, new hires would have the opportunity to step into success. And I even did orientation for Spirit Aero Systems, not just the intern orientation, the company orientation, for 8 months. And I was singing Stevie Wonder at 8 a.m. in the morning on Fridays. People was in there like, and I'm talking mechanics, business people, just the corporate side of it. It was everyone in those orientations. They'd be like, am I at the right place for orientation, And so, it was that pivot to HR really allowed me to blossom and allowed me to really do some things that I was passionate about. And yeah, I really enjoyed it.
And you wouldn't have been in the unique position you were in without your passion initially for planes and wanting to be the engineer, because if you'd have went straight to HR, wouldn't have gone the way you wanted to.
And I'm glad you pointed that out, because that is something that is unique. I was so passionate, yes, because of diversity and getting more Black and brown, students into STEM, but I was getting to go out and promote a company making airplanes, which is what I love. So I wasn't just your run-of-the-mill HR person, happen to work at an aerospace company. Like, I love airplanes. I know about these planes, and I can, I planned our trips to NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, Society of Women Engineers, all of those conferences, the booth setup, all that stuff was under my jurisdiction. And so getting to do those things, but then help, tell the story of Spirit and coach the people on those teams to tell the story, yeah, man, it was great. It was very specific to being an airplane company, which is why it was just like the perfect storm.
I have to say, I really appreciate your passion, and I really appreciate what you do. I am the first to graduate high school, let alone graduate college, since my great grandma. I'm first. At the time when I went to college, I was a first generation college student. And like I said, the first one to graduate high school since my great grandma at the time when I graduated high school. And you're doing what you're doing like you're somebody that I would have wanted back then when I was there. The work you do with STEM music, the work you do with the children, I really applaud you for it. And I think it's so cool. And I was so honored to have you when you agreed to be on here for that reason, because opportunities for people like us don't really exist too much. And you're out there creating those opportunities.
It's getting
making
better
people-
because of people like you.
Or making people think that I can be the next Elon Musk, even though I don't look like him.
Yeah. Or
Or
better and kinder.
right. Exactly. But I can create the next
On that
Tesla.
tonight.
I could create the next Tesla. You see what I'm saying? So you talked about music, talked about STEM, and I want to segue into that because I definitely want to talk about that. So,
In other words,
you
we
got
want to let
into-
you promote the crap out of it so that we can
yes,
make
Yeah.
cut YouTube videos and contribute to this amazing work that you do.
Thank you.
yes. So you touched a little bit how STEM music came to be. It came out of your passion. It came out of those next steps.
Proud
And
father smile. I'm sorry to interrupt. The passion is oozing out of you, Roy.
A lot of people say that too. I do. I'm very passionate. It's funny because I have a lot of insecurity around engineering and STEM, which people would not think that, but it's like the passion is what pushes me past that insecurity, because I just never felt like I was that kid. Yes, I'm a nerd about planes, but I guess I always associate STEM and engineering with hard math and hard science. And I was never the kid who was just so good at that naturally. But I also think that is the reason why I feel like, no, if you want to do it, you can. If I did it, you can do it, And so I think that's kind of what pushes me forward. And also to see what STEM, I don't know what question you were about to ask, but you're kind of talking about going into STEM music and creating it and why. And I will say this. I had the idea of STEM music in 2016. Okay. I was in a nonprofit organization mentoring young Black boys from 3rd to 8th grade. And I was the third and 4th grade teacher, and then became the 4th and 5th grade teacher. I moved up with my students. We met every Monday night during the school year, had food first, and then we would go into a lesson about life or whatever. But every now and then they would ask me to do a STEM lesson because I was the STEM guy. And they asked me to do a math lesson of all things. And I said,
hold up. Wait a minute.
By the way, I have a bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering and a minor in mathematics because we took so much math that you take one. I literally have a minor in mathematics, right?
Could I ask you, because like I went through the mechanical engineering, I started it, but I didn't finish it. And they said, hey, if you take 2 more classes, you'd have a minor in math. I'm like, not even going to take those 2 extra classes.
Yeah. I mean, you take Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3 differential equations, and at Wichita State, if you took 1 more class, which the funny thing about it, though, the ironic thing is my last math class was linear algebra. And that is the only math class in my life that I got an A in. It was like, I was like, wow, my last math class, because it had to do with matrices and like multiplying them together. And it was about like the formula of it that I understood. For whatever reason, I was like, you do this row first.
There's a lot more order to that.
Yeah, it was just like, if I can follow this, I'm going to get the right answer. Not this, you can solve it 10 different ways.
Is it even a real number? Is it even
Why
real?
are you putting letters in math? Let's not.
Yes. So I don't know that. So when they asked me to do that, I said, oh my gosh, 1, my insecurity starts ringing through. But 2, I'm like, I know my kids. And yes, some of them, had that energy, but it is what it is, right? Like I'm going to, rep my kids and do my best to pour into them. And they taught me so much, but I said, they're not going to be for this. I know they're not going to be like, oh yeah, let's do this. And so and for whatever reason, I was like, you got to do something creative. You got to do something. And so at the time, Silento's song, Watch Me Whip, Watch Me Nay Nay, was like, huge. And so I took that song and I remixed it to Watch Me Solve the Equation.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
I put an algebra problem in the song to solve for X.
Come on.
And
Sing it.
the equation, hey, what solve the equation now, change your math.
I love it.
Like literally,
There you go.
and it's on YouTube. You can actually go listen to it on YouTube, which is
It's happening tomorrow with the kids. It's happening
the
tomorrow.
quality is like trash, but and so I did it, and I was jamming out in my apartment. Like, hold up, I kind of like this is kind of cool. And session, and I said, okay, we're doing a math activity tonight, and they were like, I said, okay, but just I just want to perform something first. And they're like, what? They knew I sang, but they were just like, what? I put that song on and the room exploded. I mean, it was like And I'm performing, so I'm like, you got to keep going. But I'm like, whoa, like there was such a response. And when I finished, and okay, so we solved for X in the problem. We're gonna do it on the board. And like the kids were running up to the board. They didn't care if they got it right. They didn't care if they got it wrong.
The
And then
energy.
when
Yeah.
the lesson was over and we're waiting, we would always wait outside for their parents, because some of the parents, they weren't coming on time, but so we're waiting outside and the remaining students were still singing. And it's actually in the video on YouTube. I'm so glad I recorded that because that's the genesis of STEM music. I mean, that is really how it kind of manifested and came to be. And I just remember leaving that night, driving home, like something happened. That's special. And I think you need to do so. I went to a NESB convention and I was thinking of starting something. A friend of mine has a company called STEM Media, just like this, but media, right? Like not STEM and then media, it's all one word. And I was like, almost like Dr. Nee, he's got STEM Media. I want to do like STEM music. So I went to this thing and the lady's like, if you have a business idea or an actual business or whatever, you just share your idea with the room, So everyone in NESB knew I sang, like everybody knew I was a singer, stuff like that. And so I was like, STEM music, like Schoolhouse Rock, Reading Rainbow,
Our jams.
I was like, but my own version of it. And I don't want it to sound kiddish. I want to just be like, it's going to be kiddish because it's like, for kids, but like not everybody do STEM. We're going to do it. Yeah.
Not
yeah.
encouragement, application.
And so, and we need that music too, shout out to my children music, family members out there. We need that music too. But for me, I was just like, hear it differently up here. And everyone in that room, I remember saying, do it, Roy, you got to do that. Like, I mean, they were like, you got to do that. And I left and I'm like, okay. And then the insecurity like, you want to leave engineering. How are you going to be the one to teach kids about STEM? You're not even that great of an engineer. How can you teach kids STEM? You don't get math. I mean, it just overwhelmed me. And for 2 years, I just would talk to my friend about it, but I really have this idea. I'm drawing the logo out, like all this, like I'm drawing, but I don't. And finally in 2019, my friend was like, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to, and I think she was kind of at a point where she was tired of me saying it, but she was kind by saying like, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to do it. And for some reason that just made me say like, just write one song and see how you feel. And I wrote the song, we call it STEMusic, which is the theme song for STEM music. And I played it back and I was in my kitchen, I'll never forget. And I was, this is it. Like, this is what I wanted it to sound like. This is, oh my God. Like there's a line in there like, listen up to what I have to say. STEM can lead you to a better way. It's hard work, but that's okay. Cause ain't nobody really crying about the pay. And like, that's in the song, and so it sounded exactly how I wanted to sound. And so I went back to a NESB conference that March of 2019 and asked if I could perform it for the NESB Junior delegation and at their karaoke night. And I performed it. They are vibing to it. The parents are going crazy because it's like, they're really understanding the lyrics. This is what we do. We're STEM people. And this is in Detroit. The DJ, okay, so it's on a jump drive. So the DJ, after I'm done performing, I'm like, thank y'all so much. I feel like I got the validation I needed, or like, okay, you got to do something with this. The DJ's like, can I play this in the club? I'm like, and he's a real DJ in Detroit. You know what I mean? Like an actual.
That's
DJ.
amazing.
Like, what are you talking about? Like, no way. So I left just like really feeling confident about it. I said, you know what? You're just going to have to do it scared. And so I just, that fall, recorded the EP, created the LLC, and STEMusic was born. And man, the rest is history. And the crazy thing about it, that song, we call it STEMusic, has a music video that I made with a Society of Women Engineers chapter here in Wichita back in the pandemic. And that video has 46 million views. And it takes my mind, like, and you almost didn't do this. Look at this song that you recorded in your apartment. Like it's been such an amazing ride, an amazing journey. The pandemic happens. I think it's over. All of a sudden I start doing virtual gigs, like singing to my laptop. I mean, it was like, and then once the world opened back up, started going to places in person, and it started to just continue to grow all throughout this HR career. It's just growing each year. It's growing. And finally look, I've been trying to jump from Spirit since 2015, right? So what happened in 2015 was I put out my first R&B EP on my birthday, July 15th, 2015. People came out, people bought it. People were still buying physical CDs at the time. Like, and I went to bed that night like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is actually what I want to do. And that feeling was just, I can't even describe, it was just like when you actually figure out what it is that you want to do. And then you're like, but I just got this aerospace job and I got student loans and I need to, you're like, it was just, And so here we are 9 years later, and finally I get the yes from God, and I get the yes from just financially. Not, look, I ain't Daddy Warbucks over here, but just the ability to say like, yeah, I think we could take the leap now. And who would have thought that that children's music would be the reason I get to leave my job to do music full time? That was not in my bingo cards.
Speaking of children's music, I think I read somewhere about some gigantic award nomination you got. I don't know, something like it's the Oscars of music or something like that.
Nothing too big, right?
Man, yeah.
Can you kind of go into that a little bit? Because I can see on your face, it had to have been mind blowing.
It was, wow. I mean, every music artist, I don't care if they lying to you or not, especially like after like Drake stuff or Kanye stuff, where it's like the Grammys, every music artist wants to win a Grammy. Like that, whether it's something they're really going after or it's just like, wow, if that ever happened, that would be crazy, And so ever since college, talking about nerding out on things, ever since college, I have treated the Grammys like March Madness. So for the categories that I care about, gospel, R&B, and then the big ones, which are album of the year, best new artist, pop record, record of the year, song of the year, and there might be one other one. Like I would always be like, hey, these are the ones that I think are going to win. Like, and I would be like, and then I would sit there and watch. And it's the pre-show. Most of the awards are given in the pre-show, not the televised version. But, and then, then you just check, like, did you win? Oh, they did. I was rooting for them. And so you come into 2021, my friend, who is my CMO, a CMO of STEMusic, we've been friends since like elementary, middle school. She used to manage a children's music group. So that was kind of another weird thing. Like she's with me during my gospel career. So I did R&B first, pivoted to gospel for about 5 years, and then, fall into STEMusic, which I was not trying to be a children's music artist. I'm trying to get more Black and brown kids to go into STEM. So I create STEMusic. Then I look up and I'm in the children's music, space. So her, the people she used to work for, family friends of hers, she used to do their books, and they're named Uno, Dos, Tres con Andres. So they're like a Latino-based children's music group, and they're Latin Grammy winners and now Grammy winners, but at the time, Latin Grammy winners. And so she's like, you should follow them on Instagram. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, dang, they won a Latin Grammy. Like, this is amazing. And you used to do their books. So because the world was shut down, there was this festival called Cucuza Fest that was happening virtually, celebrating Black family children music artists. So when I saw that, I was like, man, that's going to be in a couple weeks. I would love to be a part of it, but it's too late. Like it's already happening. So I commented underneath the post and said, oh my gosh, this is so cool that this is happening. I can't wait to tune in. Would love to be a part of it next year. They saw that and then clicked on the STEMusic page, saw what I was doing, immediately DM'd me. We're like, you're going to be in it this year. You need a video, you need a da-da-da. And that's how we started talking. And they are my mentors. They've become such amazing mentors. So they introduced me to the Family Music Collective. There's all these family children music artists, especially in the pandemic. We were like hopping on Zoom calls, like having wine and like playing music for each other and just, talking and stuff. And I'm getting introduced to all these children music artists. I'm like, whoa, I didn't even know this was like, I knew it was a category in the Grammys and I knew it was a thing, but like, whoa. And then in that, because of George Floyd's murder, they said, we're going to create a spinoff collective out of this family music collective called One Tribe Collective for Black family children music artists, because we want to hold each other down in this time. If you're interested, hopped on the Zoom call. In that Zoom call, we're all just expressing our frustration, all this stuff. And then there's an idea. We should make an album for the Black children who are going through what they're going through. If we're going through what we're going through, we should imagine what our kids are going through. So let's make an album about all topics, not just, George Floyd and different racism and different things like that. And so everyone says, okay, they're like, if you want to make a thing, join the Zoom call. We join the Zoom call. Just play what you have. If you already have a song, play the song. If you have an idea. So at the time, I'm just like, I don't even have like a song written, but I have like this chorus that I have. Black lives made STEM history. So many inventions you can see. Black lives made STEM history. Change the world for you and me. And that is what I sang on the Zoom call. And they were like, no, that sounds good. I'm like, go for it. So then they said it's due March of 2021, whatever date it was. So I'm recording it, whatever. Literally, it's the day before it's due. And one of the producers goes, hey, we know you're working hard on the song. It's due tomorrow. I'm like, I promise I'm going to the studio tonight. I get it submitted the day it's due. And so it's 26 artists, all in a collective, 26 songs. This is a long album, but all kinds of topics. I mean, it was just so beautiful to see talking about race, talking about STEM, talking about history, talking about love, talking about, I mean, it was just this huge thing. And so at that same time, our producers like, hey, Grammy applications are going to be due soon. If you want to apply to become a Grammy member, let us know. And I'm like, what? Like, just imagine doing March Madness or like voting on them in your mind.
I mean, I can be on the bracket?
Yeah, I can remember. And so many of us applied that year and were selected in June of that year. And so we became official Grammy members. And so like I just voted for the Grammys just in December. So the ones that are coming to going to happen this weekend, the winners and stuff like that. And I did vote for Beyonce Best Album of the Year. Yes, I did.
Had to do it. Had to do it.
Cowboy Carter.
We'll have that discussion later.
But, you know, and so it was an amazing moment to do that, right? So I'm just happy that I get to vote for the Academy. Like, what? So our album comes out on Juneteenth, and it was the first June 19th, which is, you know, for history of everybody, where the slaves were finally told that they were emancipated in Texas, because Texas was like, we ain't telling y'all gonna still be slaves.
Holdouts.
Exactly.
You know, so June 19th. And so that was the first time that June 19th became a federal holiday. And it was so special that this album of Black family children music artists is coming out. Also on that same day, I was already on the schedule to sing for the Royals, the national anthem. And I pitched to them, hey, it's becoming a national federal holiday. I know Lift Every Voice and Sing. Could I do that? And they were like, oh, we were just in our meeting talking about, y'all was not talking about, y'all weren't talking about no Lift Every Voice and Sing. I wish when I saw that email come back, I said, you were not just talking about that. I am pitching this to you.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they ended up agreeing. And so I made history at Kauffman Stadium singing the Black national anthem for the very first time ever in that stadium. And then the U.S. anthem, like right after. So it was
awesome.
That day will forever be so special to me, because it's like this album that I'm a part of comes out that day. And then I'm like literally making history in this stadium
So cool.
in Kansas City. And so, okay, I'm just happy. Like, I'm so grateful with that. August rolls around and our producers email us and say, so we're going to submit the album for the Grammys. What? Like, it was just one of those moments of like, are you serious? And then I started to see the master plan. We're all Grammy members now, so we can vote on this. Like, it was kind of crazy. It was just like, y'all are smart. Oh my gosh. And so we ended up doing so, you know, it's just like an election almost. It's a campaign. You have to campaign. It's not just, oh, you submit. So we're doing like promo videos. We're buying ads in the Billboard magazine. We're doing all kinds of stuff. And then the day I will never forget, working at Spirit Aerosystems in HR at my desk. And I remember telling my team, like, I may be a little distracted today, you know, didn't tell them why or anything. And I have my phone like propped up. I'm like trying to answer emails and do whatever it is I'm supposed to be doing. And they're on there announcing Grammy nominations. And John Batiste, who ended up having 11 nominations that year, and he ended up winning 5. It was just so special. He was announcing the nominations for children's music. So he was like, Activate, 1, 2, 3, Andres. So those are my mentors. Uno, dos, tres con Andres. So they were nominated first. I'm like, I'm in my desk like, and he was like, all one tribe by one tribe. And I grabbed my phone and I just ran out the room. I run into this like office that's off the side of the hallway. And I just fall to the ground and I'm like, I was just crying and I could not believe that he said, our album, I'm now a Grammy nominee with these amazing, I mean, it was just, oh my God, that. And the crazy thing to me, like when they say like, tell God your plans and he'll laugh. Mm-hmm. Like, I just never thought that could ever happen if I was still working in corporate America. I was like, you got to be an artist full time in order to be able to, and here I am sitting in HR at my job, at my desk, finding out that
you're Grammy nominated.
Nominee with this.
Yeah. You see, kids, dreams do come true in HR.
They just true in HR.
They're not where dreams go to die.
It's not over.
They're not.
Guys. It's not over.
And so, yeah, man, that was a special day. I called all the family. I mean, it was just crying and crying. And you know, this is a powerful thing too about manifestation, you know, about your dreams. Like you all are speaking of dreams. I'm such a firm believer in like truly shoot for the stars, have those audacious goals. It's funny too, because my mom, she was like kind of telling everybody, you know, after it got my son, you know, and it was on my vision board. So my mom has this vision board. She doesn't do one every year. She just has this one vision board that she made when we were like in high school, right? And she was like, and it's on my vision board. Grammy is on my vision board. Look at it. And I remember like letting her, you know, tell all those stories. And then I was like, okay, I just need to clear something with you. I said, who was the one who put that Grammy thing on your vision? You did. Okay. I was like, I just want to make sure the story's correct. Because at the time, when I was like, hey, if I find a Grammy thing, like, or could you find a Grammy thing and put it on there? Because I really want to Grammy one day, that's what I want to do in music. And I remember there was like some hesitation there, kind of like, and I remember saying, okay, well, if I find a Grammy cutout, because she did it with magazines, right? So I was like, if I find a Grammy cutout in a magazine, if I cut it out, can I put it on there? She was like, yeah. And I did that. So for kids out there, for anybody out there, like, you have to be the one to really believe that your wildest dreams can come true. And then something that usually people are like, well, what's the one last thing you would say? But I'll say it now. Do what you can with what you have right where you're at. I live by that phrase because I live in Wichita, Kansas, and I was at the Grammys. I live in Wichita, Kansas, and I was just singing for the figure skating championships, which were happening here in Kansas. While skating, I was singing. I'm like, I live in Wichita, Kansas. So you'd be surprised at how much you can accomplish if yes, you're going to need the resources, the connections, all that stuff, but it will come if you just focus on doing what you can with what you have right where you're at. So yeah.
So
we did not win, by the way. The audience is like holding their breath. We did not win.
Hey, but you were nominated.
That's just still a Grammy-nominated artist on the.
We got the Grammys and see all of the big stars. I mean, it was so crazy to be like, what? Like, that's Questlove. What? That's John Batiste. That's Jasmine Sullivan winning for Best R&B album. That's, the BTS guys. It was just like, this is the most craziest experience ever. It was a phenomenal time. Yeah.
You've done a lot of phenomenal stuff. You spoke about the iconic Royals being able to sing the African American national anthem and the national anthem right after that. But you've also been on Sunday's Best. You've formed a Common.
Yeah.
Tell us about like those opportunities. And
I was on Forget the Lyrics last year, forgetting the lyrics. So didn't win any money. Literally, it was horrible. But it was a great experience, but it was horrible to not win any money. Like, what? No. Yeah. Like I said, I'm a firm believer in doing what you can with what you have right where you're at. And also, like, I really do have a close relationship with God. And that is something that I say that, and when I say that, I want to be clear in saying that I'll be stubborn. So like, some people, I have a relationship with God and he just blesses me and like, he does, but he be having to break me down because I'd be so stubborn. I'm like, I want this, I want this, I want this. So just surrendering to his will, which I don't always get right. But when I do, like, some of the most incredible things happen. Common, that was a crazy story. And once again, I'm seeing a theme here that I'm like, okay, Roy, you're going to have to keep up with this theme, because it seems like when people are doubting you and you decide to believe anyway, crazy stuff happens. Common was coming to Riverfest in Wichita, which is a big event in Wichita, probably the largest festival that happens here as of right now. And
I heard that. We'll talk about that later too.
Last summer, it's going to be Somewhere Fest this summer, and I definitely feel like that is going to grow, and I'm excited about it. But he was coming. I knew he was coming. I had seen the Obamas right before they left the White House. They had like a celebration or something, and I saw Common performing "Glory," which is the Oscar-winning and Grammy-winning song from the movie Selma. And it's with him and John Legend. Well, John Legend wasn't there. And so they had Yolanda Adams, a gospel artist, sing with him. And I was like, come on. I mean, she blew the house down. It was just like, whoa. And so I remember at the time I was a gospel artist, like very committed to that, like very like strict about what I was doing, And so I remember saying, wow, that's an example of how you can still be used on a major platform and not like compromise who you are or like sing crazy stuff, whatever, And so then I found out he was coming to Wichita. And I was like, what? This is like crazy. So Riverfest 2017. So it's February when I find out. I literally DM him, don't get a response. And then I think I tweeted him, because I've been off Twitter for years. So yeah, this was 2017. And no response. But I remember telling my coworkers, so I was in that nonprofit with those same boys, same kids, and we got tickets. So they sent an email out saying, hey, we need some chaperones. So me and my friend, who is the COO of STEMusic, Taylor, he was like, that's like one of his favorite rappers ever. And so he's like, we gotta be the chef. And I was like, no, I'm down. Let's do it. So we text each other. We email back. We'll be some of the chaperones. So that meant we got a meet and greet with Common. And so, I'm like, I know John Legend is not coming to Wichita. We ain't got the money to have both of them there. Glory at the time is a huge song because of the movie Selma. And it won an Oscar and all this stuff. I said, if he performs that song, he gonna need a singer, And so I'm just thinking, whatever. So I DM'd him that, like, hey, no, you're coming to Wichita. If you need a singer for Glory, let me know. Would love to do it. I'm a local artist. Nothing, no replies. At work that day, it's a Monday. That day I say, if I meet Common, I'm shooting my shot. If I meet him, I'm gonna ask if I can sing. No, you're not gonna do that. I'm like, okay. So we do the meet and greet. He's dapping up everybody. He daps me up. Come in with the bro hug, come out. And I'm like, listen, I don't know if you're singing the song, if you're doing the song Glory tonight, but if you are, I'm a singer and I can sing it if you need a singer. He was like, word? Really? And that was like the most shocking response. I just knew he was going to be like, yeah, bro, get out of here or whatever. But he literally like, word? Really? And as soon as he said that, then somebody yelled, photo, photo, photo. So then like, we were just ripped apart, did a photo. And I let it go. I just, whatever. So then the photo ends. He comes straight back to me. And he's like, you really can sing? You can sing this? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, hey, yo, can he sing? And he's like looking at the kids. Man, before them kids could turn around, one day when the glory, it will be ours. Glory. I mean, I just sang. It was word. And he called his road manager over and he said something that I was like, once again, a God moment. He was like, my background singer, she had to go to her daughter's kindergarten graduation today. So she's not here. So that's why he said, word, really? When I said that, because they probably were going to take that off the set list. And he says, so, okay, we'll talk to him. So I talked to him. He says, come up to the green room at X time. So once that all happened, like people from the organization and stuff that I'm in, they're like kind of, so when he left me, everybody's like, come. And I'm like, oh, it's nothing. Everything's good. Like, I'm trying to play everything chill. He also was like, do you know the bridge of the song? And I was like, yeah, I lied. Jesus, that man did not say, sing it for me right now. Because I did not know I knew of it, but I didn't know the exact words. And so I was just hoping he didn't say, sing it right now. He didn't. So then when I left, I told my friend, I said, Taylor, I think I might be able to perform. I'm going to have a chance to perform. I said, don't tell nobody. I said, I got to stay back here and learn this bridge. So you got to go out, So he's holding me down with the kids. I'm in the back behind the big stage by Century 2, by myself back there. Now the war is not over. Victory isn't won. So we'll fight on to the finish. Then we'll cry glory. I'm just singing that over and over and over and over again. Then I go up to the green room, which was in Century 2, this convention center in Wichita. And that's where he was. And it was crazy to me because the Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors, Cleveland Cavaliers, they're in the finals at this time. I told you my family's from Ohio. So I'm so LeBron. I'm so Cavs. He's so Golden State. And we're arguing. I'm like, how am I arguing with Common right now? I'm like, nah, we gonna win. Nah. And he's like, nah. I'm like, dude, chill. Then he starts asking me all these questions about Wichita. Yeah, man, tell me about Wichita. What you know about? And I'm like, I'm a transplant. I just graduated in 2015. I mean, I know about, but I haven't been living in the city, like grown up, like working for just 2 years, and I don't be paying attention.
So you're the reason they moved to Wichita.
Right. And so I'm like, Lord, I'm a bad representation. So I'm just literally trying to think of like all Kellogg is a major highway.
Did you say
Shoppers? No, I didn't even know. I was like, I'm just like literally just saying what I can think of, right? Riverfest is like one of the biggest things. You're at it right now. I had no idea why he was asking for that. And then the road manager was like, okay, come on over here. And then he was like, we need to hear you sing the bridge. So I was so glad that I was ready. So I sang the bridge. He was like, cool. Okay. And so then I'm about to leave. And the road manager says, listen, we may run out of time. So come to the stage when the DJ solo happens to the side of the stage. Here's your badge, your pass, but we may run out of time. And then he shut the door. And I remember just walking out like, really, God? Really? Here we
get this
whole thing. And then we may run out of time. And I just remember what a big word that I'm leaning into again this year. Like I said, I'd be stubborn sometimes, is surrender. It's a huge word that I'm really trying to lean into this year of like, because to elevate, you have to surrender. You can't force that. You have to. And so I remember in that moment, for whatever reason, I said, okay, God, your will. I'm not going to force this. If you allow this to happen, awesome. I'm telling you, I really want it. So I'm not going to lie. I really want this to happen. So then I go into the crowd. They gave me a set list and they won't show it to anybody. And so I showed it to my friend and he was losing his mind. You know, like it'd be like me with Beyonce. It'd be like
Mhm.
with, Stevie Wonder. It'd be like me with, I was like, so he's freaking out. Hey, you hold on to it. And the beautiful thing was he knew his catalog. So I'm like, they said DJ solo after this song, and I don't know what all the songs sound like. I knew some of them, but not all of them. So he's telling me, boom, we're on this song right now. Boom, we're on this song. He's just walking down the thing. The DJ solo comes. I give him the paper, and then I like go to the side of the stage. The person in the back, it was so dramatic. The person in the back, like guarding the stage, who are you? No, you can't. I'm like, they gave me a badge, but you're not getting up on the stage. So like, I'm on the side of the stage, like my moment is right.
No.
And finally, the road manager looked over in my direction, and he was like, just let him on stage. And then I walked over to the sound booth, and the road manager was like, mic him up. And that was the moment. I was like,
It's real. It's real.
happened. And next thing I know, and man, this is probably one of my favorite memories living here in Wichita. Like, because I feel like the city does root for me, does, want me to win, is like, man, he's this singer. He does, a great job. And comments like, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce my friend Roy. And so the crowd is like, Roy, we don't, the only Roy we know is the one who sings, so it was kind of like this. And the moment I walked out, first of all, I'm nervous. So nobody really knows this, but I started too early because I started singing and they had an instrumental track with the choir in it. But because I started singing too early, once he started rapping after I finished singing, the choir was like, glory. And he was like, you can see in the video, he's like, shut that off. And then it was live, like no track. It was the band, me, and Comp. Like that was crazy. But when I walked out, one day when the glory comes, and the audience, I mean, the scream, I get chills right now, the scream of the crowd. I mean, it's like Wichita. And then the crazy thing is my kids are all down there in the front row, just like losing their mind. Like, if I get the opportunity, I didn't say it was guaranteed to happen. I said, if I meet him, I'm going to shoot my shot. And then there was news articles about it, the Wichita Eagle, all the stuff. So just one of those moments in life where everything had to align, right? Like if his backup singer's there, that opportunity is not there. So I just knew it was a God moment and a real connection in artistry. And I'm just excited for the future to see like, okay, like, I don't know what capacity we're going to work, but we're going to work.
There's so much more I'd love to get in with you, man, but I don't want to keep you all night. We're going to have to do a part 2 if you're willing to do it in the future. But I want to not end this episode before talking about what's coming up next for you, what's on the horizons for you. You're working on the album, correct?
Yes.
When is that coming out, and what can people expect it, and how can they get it?
Yeah, so hopefully that is coming out this summer. It is called STEMusic Takes Flight. It's all about aviation and aerospace. It's like a love letter to Wichita, to just my first love. I love to sing and stuff, but my very first love was airplanes. Like I said, 3 weeks old on a plane flying back to the States. And so it is a love letter to aviation, to aerospace. And I'm excited about it because, I get to hopefully inspire the next generation of airplane lovers, of av geeks, and specifically in our city, in Wichita with all these, the air capital of the world and all these aerospace manufacturers, working in HR, working in recruitment specifically, we were always having conversations about how do you excite the next generation for aerospace, whether it's working with their hands, whether it's engineering, pilots, whatever the case may be. And so it'd be funny. I'd be in those meetings like, I have the album, I have your solution, So I'm just excited to create it. I've already been talking with my professors from college at Wichita State. And so like, I want them to kind of be consultants to the part of getting things right. Like having them kind of listen to the songs, but yep, that checks out. Yep, that's right. That sort of thing, and kind of bringing them in as a part of the process. And then I get to work with Arts Partners, a local nonprofit. I partnered with them and we applied for a grant. We won the grant. And so we get funding to help support this project, and students, more importantly, the most important part is students get to be a part of this album, which I'm really, really excited about. So we have a Generation STEAM camp that's happening this summer. And throughout that, they'll learn how to make beats with my producer. They'll learn how to songwrite with me and sing and record and get to be on some of the songs and get to create. The students is going to design the album cover. So it's really, really exciting. And yeah, I can't wait. So hopefully sometime this summer, that project will be out. And then my big dream and vision with it is I want to be touring air shows with it. Every air show has like a kid zone or a STEM hangar or something like that. And so I really want to get my pilot's license and then fly into the air show and get out and jump on stage. Like
that'd be amazing. That's epic. That's epic.
So,
but as far as your STEM music schedule, do you have any cool events coming up? Do you have any where's the next school you're going to be at? Where are people going to be able to see you
no,
in the near future?
So many exciting things literally as of this week that have started to get finalized. I'll be in Tulsa, Oklahoma doing some shows this summer, San Diego this March, Missouri, Joplin, and Springfield this April. I'll be in Salina in the summer as well. And then 2 shows here in Wichita, Kansas at libraries. There's even more that I'm not, that are not right here, but the website, STEMusic, thestemmusic.com. And you can go there and find all the listings as we update them. But just really excited to just continue to grow the brand of STEM music, developing the shows. We do the first show concert that we have is a bilingual show. We launched that in October because I'm half Latino, I'm half Black, Puerto Rican, and Mexican, all merged into one person. So that's been really cool too. One of the shows I did in Houston last year, half of the audience, 30 of the 60 kids were non-English speaking kids. They were like 2 years old. And so I'm like, hola, I'm just kind of being cute, like, oh, this is a bilingual show. And it's like, no, this is like an 80% Spanish show. Like, you really bring your Spanish out. And I'm not fluent, but I know enough to speak a lot of it. And I like cried after that show. I cry a lot, as you can tell. But I cried because it was like, wow, this is so dope. Like, to know that I was able to connect with those students and teach them about ciencia, tecnología, ingeniería, and matemáticas. Like, they understood what I was saying because I was able to do it in Spanish and English. So just ready to develop a new show that's about the aerospace and aviation. So kind of putting that together right now and figuring out what works, kind of testing some things out on the road in March. I'll be speaking at South by Southwest EDU, which is a huge education conference in Austin, Texas, launching the STEM Music workshops, which I'm really, really excited about. Where participants get to do STEM activities, but then they have to make a jingle about the activity that they did.
That's awesome.
Using kazoos and tambourines and triangles and, so just excited for all the things that we're pursuing right now, relaunching the STEM Music podcast. So some of those episodes will start to air in March or February, and then March, 5 episodes in the spring, 5 episodes in the fall to just, keep it light, but we are doing visual as well. So that's a different thing. But just really excited to help continue to tell the story of diverse STEM professionals through that podcast and reaching Black and brown kids everywhere. And then broader than that, all kids, just to explore, hey, if you want to be in STEM, you can be in STEM. Like, if you want to do something in it, you can do it. It's not about if you want to do it, you can do it. And here's how. So yeah, really excited about what's to come.
And all this happening in Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah.
And all this happening in, I know you're not originally from Wichita, but you reclaim you now.
Like, this is my...
You reclaim.
Yeah.
And coming from a Grandview kid, but like,
and a Manhattan kid, that's the funny part. It's like,
right.
We're bringing local back.
I think you mentioned this off camera, but I just want to say how cool this is. Welcome to the nerd community.
Thank you.
You're looking across.
How cool this is. Being on here, honestly, I'm like, wow, this is like dope. Like, it feels so good. Like, it just feels. Imagine if we saw this when we were growing up. You know what I mean?
Yep. I'm saying, look at the spectrum here. And look at the different walks of life. This is so cool.
Even better, he's following the footsteps of Kenny from the Walking Dead games and the Taco Bell Chihuahua.
We've had both of them on here.
We've had both of them on this show. You were right up in here, bro. You made it. Grammy nominated and podcasting while nerdy certified. My gosh,
like Keto Taco Bell. We've had the Chihuahua. We've had But I need to say, for sure, you're welcome anytime you want. You're a part of the community now. Really enjoyed this. I need to say this, people, because I say it all the time, and Brandon knows where I'm going with this. If you don't know, you need to keep it nerdy, and you need to make sure that you're tuning in to Podcasting More Nerdy, because we keep it nerdy around here.
Check all the links in the description, guys. We'll make sure to have all of Roy's stuff linked for you to check out. Heck, you might even be able to find that Riverfest performance right there in the description. Make sure you got the bell checked up. Make sure you got the subscription locked in. Make sure you're checking out Anchor and Spotify, because this is where it's at, y'all. So make sure y'all stick around. And as always, Adrian, what is it again?
As always, keep it nerdy.
Thanks again.